Belgian Blonde Ale is something of a Belgian beer middle ground. It's quite high in alcohol and has some of those Belgian phenols and esters that you would expect out of a Belgian beer. That's the style I'm looking to initially brew today, and then I'm going to mix things up at serving time by using this Blichmann Hop Rocket as a rattler. Thanks for joining me. My name's Martin Keane. I'm taking the Homebrew Challenge to brew 99 beers in 99 weeks. Today's beer, Belgian Blonde Ale. It's light, refreshing, and has some earthy tones, which I'm gonna try to turn on its head a little bit in today's brew. But before we get to that, let's start to mash in. So a grist like this, you want to mash it fairly low. I'm going to mash this one at 150 Fahrenheit, so that's 67 Celsius. And grists like this that are so pale, this one really is quite a light beer. I do tend to add just a little bit of lactic acid into the mix here because that's going to help with conversion and just to keep the pH down a little bit. All right, let's set this one on its way. I'm in the car now. This is where I do a lot of my editing actually, while I'm sat here waiting for my son to complete soccer practice. And just looking at the footage, the next little segment coming up where I talk about the recipe, for some reason I screwed that up and I'm super blurry. So just wanted to say sorry about that, but yeah, there we go. Right, back to the brew day. Now, I said this beer is quite strong. We are looking at an ABV of around 7%. So I'm looking to build an original gravity of about 1068 for this beer. Now, because this style does emphasize pale malts, you do want to use a high quality base malt. I'm using Belgian Pilsner malt at 82%. I'm also adding in at 7% Vienna Malt. And then something I like to add to quite a lot of my paler beers for mouthfeel purposes is some wheat. So I'm going to be adding in 7% of pale wheat malt. And then finally, the remaining 4% of the grist is aromatic malt. Draining out of the grain basket now, getting ready for the boil. The hops I'm using for this beer, well, these are going to be a familiar theme in a lot of the Belgian beers I'm going to be doing because I just think that these work really, really well. I'm using Styrian Golding as my bittering hop. That's what will go in at the very start of the boil. It's a nice low alpha acid hop, which is what we're looking for. Then with 5 minutes to go, that's when I'll be adding a Tettnang. That's going to add some herbal and spicy aromas and flavors to the beer as well. Now, I've used the hop rocket before when I was brewing a black IPA. And in that instance, I used the hop rocket to add hops right at the end of the boil, so effectively as a whirlpool hop addition. Let's give it a try. It's working. Now, when we got to tasting the beer, I think we felt the effect was quite subtle. Now, I still have some Cascade hops left over from that experience, and I want to revisit the hop rocket now to use it instead as a rattler, which is to say, rather than running the wort through the hop rocket straight after the boil, I'm going to do it when the beer is being served. So this will sit between my keg and my tap. And I've picked the style of Belgian Blonde to try this because I think it will give me the best chance to really pick up the difference that the hop Hop Rocket is making, because I'm adding in Cascade hops here, and these are not hops that you would typically add into a Belgian blonde ale. This is going to give off aromas of grapefruit primarily, which is not really consistent with the style of Belgian blonde. So by using the Hop Rocket as a rattler, we'll be able to compare sort of a regular Belgian blonde and then a Belgian blonde enhanced by Cascade. With the beer transferred, I'm going to add in my yeast. I'm using Belgian Ardennes yeast for that. That's Wyeast 3522. That will give just a little bit of the fruity esters that I'm looking for, apricot and orange. So I'm going to let the beer fully ferment, move it into the keg, and only when it's ready for serving is when I will add the rattler. So Lauren, today is a tasting in 2 parts. So let's first of all do part 1, which is to look at this Belgian blonde ale and see what we think of its colour.
Okay, well, personally it looks quite blonde.
Yeah, it does look the desired colour.
Yeah, looks very inviting colour-wise. It smells quite light with like a malty smell and a little bit fruity, but
just
very
a touch, right?
Little.
Yeah, a little bit of malty sweetness, I think.
I definitely taste more malt than I smelt, and I taste less fruit than I smelt.
So it, yeah, it tastes to me what I was expecting, which is very malt forward and not at all fruity. Whereas the smell, the aroma was a little bit. I don't think from the aroma you could tell how malty this was going to be.
No, not at all.
Okay, so we've tried the beer. I think we both are picking up the same sort of thing. Very malty, not hoppy at all. So what if now we were to employ a rattler to make it hoppy? We've got this set up here. Look, massive thank you to Atlantic Brew Supply. I just took the Hop Rocket to them and said, I need to connect this up to my keg and to a party tap. And they searched the place to find 2 hookups that would allow me to do that. So what I've done is I've taken my whole hops and I've put them into the Hop Rocket. I've sealed it all up, and now the idea is that I have a keg down here that's going to send beer into the bottom of this. It will then be filled with the beer, come out the top, and at that point it would have passed through all of the hops and through the party tap and into our glasses. All right, let's try this out. I've got everything set here. So as soon as I push down the liquid post, then we'll see what happens. This is closed, but maybe...
Do I need to move? Because it says Hop Rocket. Like, yeah. I'm scared.
I don't know what pressure to use either. I'm using 10 psi.
Oh my goodness.
That might be too much, so I'm going to drop it down a bit.
Hold on.
Okay, you ready?
No.
Oh my
no.
goodness.
Oh no.
Guess didn't do that tight enough.
Oh no, I think it's
still leaking?
Yeah, it's still leaking.
Oh, here we go.
And
you get some beer now.
We have got beer. It just comes out really fast.
Yeah, the pressure's too high now. So the sealing didn't work. I've got an absolute ton of beer in here from leakage. Something isn't sealed properly to handle pressure, or maybe it just can't handle that as much pressure as I gave it.
Yeah.
Okay, so I think lower pressure would be the way to go. You do have a few floaty things in that beer, but
it's fine. I've drank worse.
Not too bad. So the question is it any different to this? And just from appearance, I mean,
they look the same, minus some floaty things.
Yeah. Yes.
I think the floaties give it character, so I'm okay with that. You know what? The Hop Rocket smells less malty than this one.
Agreed. Yeah, this smell, now that you compare the two, I think the original one smells a lot more malty than the other one. Let's give it a go.
Okay.
Oh, well.
That tastes different.
It definitely tastes different, doesn't it? I am definitely tasting a bit more of that sort of fruity character to it.
Like, I don't like the first one anymore.
Yeah, the first one tastes so malty.
It's so malty and so strong. And like I said, it had more of like an alcoholic base, like kick to it. So having this after it went through that thingamajig, like mellowed it out. And I think I definitely prefer this one over the non-rocket one.
I vastly prefer this one as well. And I quite like that originally. But now, now when you put them side by side, this one is much better, right?
It's really, that's crazy to think that it's like the same beer, just had like an extra step to it.
All right, well, thank you for trying out this hop.
There comes my burp.
There we go.
I told you it was coming. I'm sorry.
You good? Mm-mm. Well, thank you for trying the Hop Rocket with me and the experiment. I am super excited for next week's beer, one of my favourite styles coming up. But until then, it's the double-fisted
Cheers!